So people born in the early 90s all have Uranus conjunct Neptune in their astrological charts. And it may very well be their work to carry on what we've started or what we haven't completed. And I see it as a very significant historical continuum around the issue of the individual and the group. Uranus represents the individual, freedom, self, me. Neptune represents merging into the great wholeness of all. Now, one could argue that the cult of the individual began with Martin Luther and ended in California. In the 1960s, I believe, maybe somewhere around then, Fritz Perls at Esalen Institute wrote what has become the famous Gestalt prayer: I do my thing, you do your thing. I'm not here to live up to your expectations. You're not here to live up to mine. I do my thing, you do your thing, and if by chance we meet, it's beautiful. That was the credo in the 60s. By the 80s, the great quest of the individual had ended in what Philip Slater would call the pursuit of loneliness. And they're just more, all the lonely people, where do they all come from? Well, they come from California. Because when you're in the cult of the individual, there's no room for anybody else. So the next alternative then is to join a group and become part of a community. And there's so many intentional communities that are being bandied about since God knows when. But as a good friend of mine says, everybody wants community, but everybody wants it to be their community. And this is the challenge. So you could, when you look at the communal consciousness, you could go back to the early Christians, but let's go back to the fascists in World War II. People were attracted to fascism because individual life was miserable, the economy was miserable, sound familiar, and it gave people a sense of belonging. And we can argue from the first chakra that what we need more than anything else to lift off is a sense that I belong somewhere, I belong to somebody. And I got news for all the great super individualists out there: you can't get born by yourself. But of course, the problem with fascism and communism and all these individual killing collectives is that if you dare stand out, if you dare do your thing, the next thing you know, the police are knocking at your door. And I'm not just being poetic here. I've seen this. I've seen this in Eastern European countries. So it's like we're stuck in the middle. We want freedom and we want to belong. And the great challenge of our time is to figure out ways to put these two together. Can we be in relationship with other people without abandoning ourselves? Can we be true to ourselves and still live in community with others? When I was in my ute, as Joe Pesci puts it, my idealistic ute, I said to a very wise old rabbi named Joseph Gelberman, who started this thing called the New Seminary in New York City, I said, I want to, he was about 75 then, which I was 25. I said, I want to start a community. And he said, don't do it. And I said, why not? He said, because people can't live together. Now, if we look at the world, if we look at the culture, if we look at the tax code, if we look at the economy, yes, this is the truth. But the problem with the truth is that people are suffering en masse. And we're living in a culture where the CEO of McDonald's makes a gazillion times more than every worker, where families are broken up and because they weren't born in the one person wasn't born in the United States. I mean, you know the drill, where prices of simple commodities like bread and milk are astronomical for people, where even the people who've played the game and have gotten degrees are working themselves to the bone for what? If an extraterrestrial happened to land in the suburbs of Long Island just by chance and was walking around, looking around, he or she or it might be very puzzled by the fact that every one of these houses has a lawnmower. And they just have these tiny little lawns, but everyone needs their own lawnmower. We don't know how to share. So, we started it perhaps, but other people are going to have to finish it. But if we don't solve this puzzle of honoring the individual and at the same time learning to live together, then the nightmare of history that is behind us is just going to keep repeating. So I ask you to, think about this in your own life. Not how can I be free, not how can I belong, but how can I be inconceivably one and different. Freedom and belonging. That is the koan of Uranus and Neptune.